All right, the time has come. We are covering the Bernie Sanders live Fox News town hall this evening or afternoon because it's only 3:30 p.m. on the West Coast, which is exactly when I would imagine Fox News would schedule a Bernie Sanders town hall when people are either getting ready to wrap up work, commuting home in that horrible LA traffic, or whatever else. So we'll talk about that. As far as I know, the town hall starts in about 14 minutes. I am monitoring what is happening over on Fox News. Right now, it's commercials. So as soon as things get going, I will bring it all to you. Don't worry about that. I may take phone calls after the town hall, depending on whether we get 10 new members, as it says down there. But I will take questions and super chats up until the town hall starts. Quick sort of thoughts from me about this town hall. There are good arguments to be made on both sides of Bernie doing this and not doing this. Of course, going right into the den of the propaganda arm of the Trump administration, Fox News. Fox News host Sean Hannity regularly speaks to Trump on the phone, puts him to bed late at night, metaphorically, not literally, as far as we know. And it is very likely that what Fox News did to me when I went on, they will do to Bernie Sanders, but way worse. This could include, I'm not saying these things will happen, I'm telling you what can be done. Um, Lighting that won't make Bernie look good, planted questions from people that are sort of skilled in being adversarial in these situations, tag teaming Bernie as a moderation team. I believe there are two moderators in a way that moderators typically would not do. So there are all sorts of things that Fox News could do to make Bernie look bad. I don't know that they're going to do them. And there's sort of two primary arguments that are the most important ones for me and thinking about whether this does or doesn't make sense to Bernie Sanders. If you're against Bernie Sanders doing this, the argument would be you're legitimizing the propaganda reality that is Fox News. You are legitimizing them in a way that they don't deserve to be legitimized. And thus, Bernie should just stay away. In the end, very few people who are actually voting for Bernie in the primary are going to exclusively learn about Bernie by watching Fox News. Sure, there are leftists that watch Fox News, often for entertainment value, but they would hear about Bernie anyway. So that would be an argument for Bernie not doing it. The strongest argument for Bernie doing it is, if not so much for the Democratic primary, but for his national name recognition and potentially for his national election against Donald Trump in 2020, why not get in front of the Fox News audience and see if there are people who are willing to hear reason and to sort of consider your perspective, because you're not going to hurt yourself by appearing on Fox News, given your political positions. If you're Bernie Sanders, maybe there is something to be gained if you appear on Fox News. I would respect the decision either way. I've personally, when I've been invited on Fox, I've done it knowing that the tables will be sort of tilted against me and just try to make the best of it. And the idea that if I can break someone's echo chamber, that's worthwhile. And I think that that's likely something that Bernie Sanders would be able to do. At the same time, if he said, this is not my audience, and decided not to do it, that would be completely fine as well. Bernie is doing it, so we are going to cover it and we are going to talk about it. So we are currently waiting for this thing to get going. I thought that Brett Baer was one of the moderators. It's interesting that he's doing the news right now, but I guess eventually he'll walk over to wherever the debate, the town hall is going to be happening. Fox News also letting us know that Bernie Sanders has, in advance of this Fox News town hall, fulfilled his pledge to release 10 years of tax returns. I've already dealt with the entire Bernie's a millionaire issue. Yeah, so what? A lot of people who are Bernie's age have $1 million in net worth, including real estate, and it's really just not a big deal. It doesn't make him exorbitantly rich, period. And that's basically it. So we will be, of course, talking about that more. Let me see if I can make a small adjustment here to the shot. I think we're in pretty good shape. Let's make sure we have audio so that when this thing starts, we'll actually be able to hear it.
of tax returns.
We do.
Right back to you.
And just quickly, Susan, he did take the deductions for.
Oh, my goodness. Bernie Sanders took deductions. Okay. We'll get back to that later. But in any case, we are waiting for the Bernie Sanders town hall. If this is your first live stream that you've seen, these are actually live unless you are watching an archive, which means you can participate. You can use the super chat function at the bottom of the chat window. That is the $sign. That'll pop up your questions or comments on the screen, and then I will answer questions or respond to comments. Please sign up for membership, okay? Tomorrow I'm going to outline just the absolute insanity that is going on with YouTube right now. But in any case, we are sort of in fundraising mode outside of YouTube. And one of the best things you can do, including if you want me to open up the phone lines after the town hall, is just to become a member on our website. 2 coupon codes are listed in the video description. If you include your area code in either the first or last name fields in addition to your name when you sign up, I will get to you first if and when we open up the phone lines after the town hall. So that is going on, 10 members, and I will open up the phone lines. I was just actually in Las Vegas, and one of the people I was talking to was Sam Cedar, and we use the same phone system, and we were both talking about how the phone bills are getting completely out of control from regularly having 30, 40, or 50 people holding, often for an hour. And it is a phone system that works extraordinarily well. We can conference 10 viewers together. Imagine if we did that. It does a lot of really great things, but we do pay for it. So that's why we usually tie opening the phone lines on live streams to new memberships. And I will sing your praises if you sign up. And the phone lines will get opened and you'll be able to talk to me, and it'll just all be absolutely tremendous. So that is something to look forward to after the live stream. I do have one super chat that came in, which I will address right now. David R. sent a $5 super chat asking, David, do you feel as I do that Andrew Yang's proposal to decriminalize heroin and other hard drugs is going to turn a lot of people off? Well, remember, decriminalize and legalize are two different things. And I've said that, of course, I've been for the legalization of marijuana for who knows how long. And of course, we need to be decriminalizing drugs and dealing with drugs as a public health issue. But I am just unsure right now about the legalization of heroin. I'm not ideologically or morally or ethically against it. I just have not read enough about what the impact would be. Decriminalization seems to make a lot of sense to me. So I'm not concerned about that. Yes, any position any elected official or potential elected official takes could turn them off, but I am not hugely worried about that. Let me see. I've got a little bit of not enough headroom here. Let me see if I can make a small adjustment to my shot just to better. Let's see. I think that's much better. Okay. P Primal, I guess, sends a $27 super chat with a link to lawenforcementactionpartnership.org, which with peace and love, I'm not going to click on right now because who knows what that would pop up on the screen, but lawenforcementactionpartnership.org is the website that Primal is promoting. And I really appreciate the $27 super chat, something people can visit if they so want. So we're standing by here. It looks like we are just a few minutes from Bernie Sanders. They've actually there's a clock in the bottom right, which my video is covering up. Let's see if I can move that around here. There it is, Bernie Sanders Town Hall. 6 minutes and 20 seconds away, and we have Brit Hume talking to us. Just as a goof, let's listen to what Brit's talking about.
Started claiming that nobody really got much of a tax cut, that it all went to the 1% and so on, as you've heard people like Bernie Sanders say and many others. That isn't quite true, but and you have to wonder, wow, Brett, where
so they're now playing the game that the tax cuts for the rich are for Bernie Sanders, which is, I gotta hand it to him. That's pretty freaking clever. As far as propaganda goes, that is pretty damn clever. Because even though the 1% versus the 0.5% versus the 0.1% are just Grand Canyons apart, now I'm guessing on the basis of the Bernie Sanders tax returns that have been released, Bernie has $1 million net worth. Now they're saying it's not just tax cuts for rich people like Bernie, which is, of course, extraordinarily insincere. but sort of brilliant from Fox News. So we'll get back to this. I think I can move my video back down so I will not be in the way when this thing actually gets going. We are standing by for Bernie Sanders on Fox News town hall. We will there's the expectation that this is going to last about an hour, and I am willing to go directly to the phone lines when the town hall is over if we have 10 people who sign up for membership. And I can prepare the phone lines while we are still watching the town hall, which will all be very, very exciting. Let's see what other super chats we have. The Progressive Voice says, what did you and Sam Seder do at the nightclub? At the nightclub? I don't even know what that means, but we didn't do much of anything. We just talked to people during the social events that took place in Las Vegas. David R. says, David, understanding this live stream is about the burn, can you share some quick thoughts on Andrew Yang's performance last night on his CNN town hall? I think Andrew Yang performed extremely well, but said a lot of things I disagree with. Like, for example, when he said Medicare for all buy-in, that's not me. That's not my position. Medicare for all buy-in, that's not what I'm pushing for. When he said he is against unions, I would love to also be against unions in the sense that I wish they weren't necessary based on the relationship and power dynamics between big corporations and employers and individual workers. But we need unions right now, and very, very few workers are actually represented by them. So as far as his performance, I think Andrew Yang did well. Was he sort of playing to the right in some way? I don't think so. I mean, I can't say that for certain one way or the other. But he said more things that on a policy sort of perspective, I just don't agree with. And maybe we'll get an opportunity to talk about those with Andrew Yang once again. Xavier H. sends $1 super chat. The Progressive Voice sends $1.99 super chat. Andrew Yang is a clown, dude. Interesting analysis. Not really much I can respond with because it is not particularly substantive. Soft Transom. When is Pat going to take off his shirt? Something you'd have to ask Pat about. Something that you would have to ask Pat about for sure. Okay, we are getting very, very close to Bernie Sanders' Fox News town hall. There are currently ads playing on Fox News, so I'm not going to switch over quite yet because why do that, right? That doesn't really make any sense. If people want to call in after the town hall ends, I am glad to take phone calls. The way to get the phone lines opened is by signing up at www.joinpacman.com. Memberships are really cheap. Okay, memberships are really cheap, and it costs us money to open the phone line. So please sign up. You can use the coupon code THISIS2020 to save 40%. You can also use the coupon code SAVE35 to drop a $60 membership to just $25. And if just 10 of you sign up, we will go right to the phones after the live stream. A couple of other super chats. The Needle Drop, Anthony Fantano stopping by. For the David Pakman Legal Fund, I believe you'll prevail against Sam in court, Dave. Good luck. Yes, of course, major litigation taking place in the set fiasco with Sam Seder. A friend of mine called me yesterday and said, man, I can't believe this lawsuit stuff with Sam Seder. And I said to him, it's just a joke. It really is a joke. It's not real. We're just kidding around. Jordan Oliver with a $10 super chat. I fall center right and turn to your channel to keep me out of an echo chamber. I do feel your channel has shifted to focus more on the presentation from the right instead of content. No, focus more on the presentation from the right instead of content. I don't think so. I don't fully understand what you're saying, but I don't think so. And Alfonso Saldana says, move to amend.org and end corporate personhood rights and establish once and for all that money is not a form of speech. Check out Bill HRJ 48. Agree. And Benito Patino says, do you think Bernie will benefit from this town hall? I believe that it is all upside. I think there is very, very little downside to Bernie Sanders doing this town hall. I think there are very good reasons for why he wouldn't do it, and I would have respected him if that was his decision. But I think it makes sense to try to reach people. Anybody you might be able to convince is worthwhile. At this scale, I don't recommend trying to convince Trump voters on a one-on-one level in your personal life not to vote for Trump. You're way better off just getting out the vote from people who are already on the left. But I think that there is potentially a lot to be gained. Trip Samuel says, thoughts on the 2016 Assange interview mention of Seth Rich? Was he being intentionally misleading? I barely remember that, so I'd have to review it, Trip. I know that that took place, but I don't remember the specifics of what was said. So I will have to go back and review that. Okay, so we're standing by, and I think we're about to get going. So let's start digging in here to what's happening on Fox
Democratic
News.
Nomination. Whoa!
This time, Senator Bernie Sanders says he's going all the way.
What's going to be different this time?
We're going to win.
Okay, so while this introduction starts, the idea will be, I believe there are going to be breaks during the town hall. I will read super chats during the town hall and welcome new members, so keep them all coming. And then if we get 10 new members during this town hall, right at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, we will go to the phone lines. So that's the game plan. Let's see what's going on.
Jobs and his vision for the future of America.
Extreme drama.
Good evening from the Arts West Center at the Steel Stacks here in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Big, enthusiastic crowd here. I'm Brett Baer.
And I'm Martha McCallum. Thank you so much. Thank you guys in the audience. Great to have everybody here. Behind us, as you can see, is the now shuttered Bethlehem Steel Plant.
In its heyday, the Bethlehem Steel Plant blasts those furnaces and they produce thousands of tons of steel a day. That steel built skyscrapers and helped the U.S. win 2 world wars. The plant closed in 1995, really devastating this working class community.
But now there is a new day dawning in Bethlehem, economically and politically. Here in Northampton Northampton County, which is where we are, they voted for President Barack Obama in big numbers, and
Okay.
the Democrat all the way back to Bush 41.
Let me explain to you what they're doing.
But it flipped the script. in
This is an
county,
attack on
and they
Democrats.
voted
This
for
is just
Donald
saying
Trump
we're in a place that is
2016
not
by a
doing
shift
well
of
because of
9
Democrats.
points.
It's already extraordinarily
Sanders
biased.
is hoping to get those voters back in the blue column. According to all recent polls, he's leading among declared Democrat candidates. Ladies and gentlemen, Senator Bernie Sanders.
And of course, Democrat candidates. Just say Democratic candidates, dude.
Senator, we want to start. We're going to get a lot of questions from the audience. Martha and I will follow up throughout. Let's start by getting right to our audience. Our first question is from Joe. He is a student from Allentown, PA. Joe, what's your question?
Hey, Joe.
Hi, Senator Sanders. Now that your tax returns have been released and you have been identified as a millionaire and in the top 1%, will you pay your fair share? And how do you plan to apply the policies that you have been talking about enforcing on top earners? Thank you, Senator
Absolutely
Sanders.
ridiculous. Will you pay your fair share?
I happen to believe, Joe, that we have an absurd tax system. And while millions of people today are paying actually more in taxes than they anticipated, Amazon, Netflix, and dozens of major corporations, as a result of Trump's tax bill, pay nothing in federal taxes. I think that's a disgrace. So today we announced now you raised the issue, I am a millionaire. Well, actually, this year we had $560,000 in income. And that's a lot of money. And that money, in my case, my wife's case, it came from a book that I wrote. Pretty good book. You might want to read it. It was a bestseller. It sold all over the world, and we made money. So if anyone thinks that I should apologize for writing a best-selling book, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do it.
Good so far.
But let me reiterate. I voted against. I guess on Fox News you said that I benefited from Trump's tax bill. Did you tell people that I voted against Trump's tax bill?
Sure, but you did benefit from it.
But I voted against it.
This is ridiculous. I mean,
And
listen, I've talked
happen to
about I
believe
benefited from it as well. The question
that
is,
a
what's the
tax
economic
bill
utility of
written
the
and
tax
pushed by
bill?
Trump, who told the American people that that tax bill, some of you may recall, would not benefit the wealthy. Remember that? Oh, it's not going to benefit the wealthy. 83% of the benefits went to the top 1%. So I think that's a bad idea. And in my view, people, whether it's me, you, probably make a lot more money than I do. But whether it's me or you
He
or
absolutely
anybody
does.
else, I think wealthy people and large corporations that are making billions in profits should start paying their fair share of taxes.
But Senator, to your point, and to Joe's point, your taxes do show that you're a millionaire. You did make $1 million in 2016, 2017. You're right, the 561 in 2018. But your marginal tax rate was 26% because of President Trump's tax cuts. So why not say, you know, I'm leading this revolution. I'm not going to take those.
Ridiculous.
I paid the taxes that I owe. And by the way, why don't you got Donald Trump up here and ask him how much he pays in taxes?
We will.
Yeah, well, good. Well, I am eagerly awaiting your doing that.
Well, we'd love to have you.
We would love to have
make
that
this-
question.
Get him up
We
there. And
absolutely
if
will.
the president, I guess the president watches your network a little bit, right? Hey, President Trump, my wife and I just released 10 years. Please do the same. Let the American people know how much money
You know,
But just to
he's
wrap
getting
that
at the
up,
right thing, but he sort of is
You spend a
misstating.
lot of time
You just say, me
vilifying
paying
millionaires.
anything
I don't vilify.
is not a
The
policy.
fact
We
that
need
I think
policy around
people
taxation.
who are doing phenomenally well right now, as you know, for 40 years, we have seen a shrinking middle class. You got 40 million people living in poverty. And today, just so happens that the very wealthy are doing incredibly wealthy. It's not vilifying to say that people have a whole lot of money, in some cases, billions of dollars of wealth. They should pay their fair share of taxes.
Right. Well,
that's not vilifying.
Last question on this. A lot of millionaires and billionaires give a ton to charity. You gave 3.4%.
Yeah. My wife and I do give money to charity. All right? And we're proud to do what we did. There are others, you're quite right. There are people, Gates Foundation, do a phenomenal job. We do what we do.
All right, I got a couple questions for you. So you recommended a wealth tax, 70% wealth tax.
No, actually, I didn't. That was
70,
somebody
77%.
else. No, I think another person.
What's your number?
What's my number? Well, I'll tell you what I think. I think that in order to make sure that elderly people do not continue to live in poverty, and you got 20% of elderly people trying to get by on $13,000 or $14,000 a year, I think we should raise that cap for people making $250,000 or more, so we can make sure that our parents can live out their lives in dignity. I'll tell you what else I think. I think at a time when Wall Street is doing phenomenally well, and we have millions of young people who are deeply in debt for the crime of having gone to college, I believe we should pass a speculation tax
Well,
on
that's
Wall
fine,
Street.
but I'm asking you about the wealthy and how much higher you would make it. You said
Yeah,
you
I got
don't
that.
agree with 70%. What would your number be?
In the campaign in 2016, we talked about 52%.
All right, so 52%. So would you be willing to pay 52% on the money that you made?
Awesome.
You can volunteer. You can send a
Oh,
check.
you can volunteer too. We have
That's not how marginal tax rates work. I mean, this is the height of idiocy.
In your bracket,
Wealth tax is on wealth. She's talking about a marginal tax rate, which would only be on the income above a certain. I mean, this is just idiocy.
fight for a wealth tax, and we're going to demand that we end the absurdity where major corporation after major corporation. You know what?
Yeah, but I'm talking about individual taxes
in this
right now.
tax bill that you are defending, families like the
defending any
Koch
tax bill.
brothers.
We're
Of course
asking
you're
you
defending
questions
it.
about what you
Families
propose.
like the Koch brothers get billions
not
and
gonna answer my
billions of
question.
dollars in savings. That is absurd. Trump wants to repeal the entire estate tax. Huge tax breaks for billionaires. You got another question?
Well, we're
We have
talking-
many questions.
We have many questions.
And listen, we want to get substance. We want to get details.
let's do it.
And the audience has a ton of questions, too.
All right.
Martha?
So our question comes
Heckler.
from Kathy Harrington. Kathy, what's your question
Hi.
for Senator
Hi,
Sanders?
Senator Sanders. Welcome to the Lehigh Valley. So my question is, the definition of socialism is just a society agreeing to work together and combining their resources to make sure everyone is protected and taken care of. How can you challenge the idea that socialism is bad in the minds of the public?
Might have asked them, not me. But
Is this going to be a constant thing?
no,
I mean,
it will not.
All right.
All right. You ask me fair questions, I will give you fair answers.
Thank you, sir.
That's the deal.
And you know, not
Tested.
everybody thought that I should come on this show.
And we appreciate it.
All right. Your network does not necessarily have a great deal of respect in my world but I thought it was important for me to be here and have a serious discussion about serious issues. Sally asked a good question. Thanks for that question, Sally. And let's talk about it. And I think it's an important issue, but it will come up. What is democratic socialism? Fair question.
Uh-oh.
So let's talk about it. Democratic socialism, to me, is creating a government and an economy and a society which works for all rather than just the top 1%. It means ending the absurd inequalities that exist today. And I want to lay this out because you're not going to hear this much on Fox, and you're not going to hear this much in the media in general. And the American people have got to conclude whether we think it is appropriate and what America is about to have 3 families owning more wealth than the bottom half of the American society, 160 million people. Whether it's appropriate for the top 1% to own more wealth than the bottom 92%. Whether it is right that 49% of all new income goes to the top 1%, when many people, Brett and Martha, who are watching this program, are working 2 or 3 jobs just to pay the bills. So first of all, we want to create a government that works for all of us, and we want to create a political system which is based on one person, one vote, not billionaires buying elections as a result of this disastrous Citizens United Supreme Court decision.
Really social democracy.
And furthermore, when I talk, and you know, people have different views of capitalism or democratic socialism, whatever it may be, but this is my view. I believe that human beings, especially in a wealthy, democratic, civilized society like our own, are entitled to certain basic rights. So let me be very clear, and I'm sure we'll discuss it later in the show, Brett. I believe that health care is a human right, not a privilege. Okay? And I believe that there is something embarrassingly wrong when the United States of America is the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all people. I live 50 miles from the Canadian border.
We're going to get in detail about Medicare.
Right. So health care is right. I believe that education, whether you're poor, whether you're rich, you have the right to get all of the education you need. And that is why I believe we should make public colleges and universities tuition free.
We're going to talk about all of this, and we're going to try to talk about how you pay for it, which is a real question.
Absolutely.
But I just want to, back on the taxes briefly, you know, when you wrote the book and you made the money,
yeah,
isn't that the definition of capitalism, the American
Are you kidding
dream?
me right now?
No. I mean, you know, what we want is a country where everybody has opportunity. You know, I have a college degree. Okay, I'm a United States Senator. But a lot of people don't have a college degree. A lot of people are not United States Senators. I want everybody in this country to be able to have health care, to have education, to when they turn on the water, have drinkable water, not toxic water. So what we are fighting for, Brett, is a society not where just a few people can make a whole lot of money, but a society where everybody in this country has the opportunity to live in security and dignity.
All right. So this weekend, I want to talk a little bit about the field of Democratic candidates who are out there. This weekend, Pete Buttigieg, the mayor of South Bend, announced that he is also a candidate for the Democratic nomination. He's running, and here's what he said in South Bend.
A moment like that calls for hopeful and audacious voices from communities like ours. And yes, it calls for a new generation of leadership in this country.
So Buttigieg obviously is the youngest candidate. He would certainly be the youngest president if he were to win at 37 years old. And you are 77 years old, sir. He's calling for a new generation. He didn't name anyone specifically. But what do you say to those who have raised the question of whether or not you would be too old at 79 as president?
Well, follow me around the campaign trail. Martha, I mean, it is a fair question. It's a fair question. And all I can say is if there was wood here, I'd knock on it. Thank God my health is good. When I was a kid, I was a long-distance runner, one of the better milers in New York City, and I've continued to have my endurance. But I think when you look at a candidate, yeah, you could look at age, that's fair. You could look at experience. I was a mayor for 8 years, know a little bit about local government. I was a member of the House. I'm a member of the United States Senate. I've been all over the world talking to heads of state. So, I mean, I think it is a combination of factors. But at the end of the day, this is what I honestly believe. It's not whether you're young. It's not whether you're old. It is what you believe in. And I have to say, and this is not a criticism of Fox. This is a criticism of media in general. There is too much focus on individuals and not enough focus on the American people and what their needs are. And I want to tell you this, and again, this is not just Fox. This is all the rest. I go out and I listen to the people, and they say, they ask me questions. Those questions are often very, very different than the issues being discussed by media on Capitol Hill. Okay? So.
All right, Senator, we want to get back to audience questions. I do want to say that we understand, and we're very grateful that you're here. We are giving you an hour of substance and talk on our airwaves, so we can get over the Fox thing, if you're all right with that. Okay. Brian is a city councilman here in Bethlehem. Brian, what's your question? Go ahead, Brian. Hold on one second. Brian's got the floor.
Senator Sanders, as a
where's Brian? Okay.
And as a member of Bethlehem City Council, welcome to the Christmas City. My question is, as a lifetime Kennedy Democrat, more specifically center left, my concern is that President Trump has so inflamed the Democratic base that we will shift too far left and overreach like the Republicans did with the Tea Party in 2010. What are your thoughts on that?
Give me a break.
And look, this is what I say every day. I disagree with Donald Trump on virtually every issue, and I talk about it. And I'll tell you what upsets me, but I'll tell you what upsets me the most, and I'm going to answer your question, is that whether you're conservative or moderate or progressive, I don't think the American people are proud that we have a president who is a pathological liar. And I was just, and I say that, you know, it does not give me pleasure to say that. All right, I disagreed with George W. Bush on almost everything. Bush was not a pathological liar. Trump cannot even tell the truth, even as to where his father was born. It's really that crazy. His father was born in New York. He claims he was born in Germany. But if you can't even tell the truth about where your father was born, it's hard to believe anything that he says. But to answer your question, look, if we spend all of our time attacking Trump, you know what? Democrats are going to lose. All right? Our job is to lay out a vision that makes sense to the working families of this country. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do. Over a 4-year period, and the video that you showed earlier, I think, captured that. We raised issues 4 years ago, which were thought to be extreme and a little bit out there, but today they're accepted by the American people. So I think you talk to the people of Bethlehem and Burlington, Vermont, you say, what's on your mind? Well, you know what? Among other things, if you work 40 hours a week, people don't want to live in poverty. We've got to raise that minimum wage to a living wage. In my state of Vermont and all over this country, we've got an infrastructure that is falling about. Roads and bridges and water systems, wastewater. But we can put 15 million people back to work with $1 trillion investment. Think that makes sense to people? So I agree with you, all right? I mean, I think Trump is a dangerous president, but if all we do is focus on him, we lose. Our job is to develop an agenda that speaks to the needs of workers. When we do that, we're going to win, and win big.
Senator,
spot on.
It looks like, nobody knows for sure, but it looks like Vice President Joe Biden is likely to get into the race. Are you worried that the DNC, if that, you know, he would be a strong establishment candidate, he's obviously been around for a long time, are you worried that the DNC might put its finger on the scale again, the way that they did to you back in 2016 with Hillary Clinton?
Well, you're right. We went through that in 2016.
Yeah.
And I think we have come a long way since then. So we speak to the DNC every week. And I think the process will be fair. One of the important changes that we made, and we won, is, as you will recall, both of you recall, in the last time around, in 2016, Secretary Clinton had 500 superdelegates lined up behind her before the first vote was cast in Iowa. And that seemed to me pretty dumb and unfair. Well, that process has been changed. And I think that works well for everybody.
But let me ask you, just because now the process is that in the next round, the superdelegates would come into play. And with so many candidates on the Democratic side, it's possible that somebody doesn't get 50%. Yeah. Are you concerned about it? Are you talking to the DNC about that?
Well, that's what the rule is. I mean, that's where we are right now. But you're right. I mean, I would hope that the Democratic Party understands what they did some years ago. And that is what we want to hear from is not political insiders and campaign contributors. You want to hear from ordinary people in Iowa and Pennsylvania, and they should determine who the next Democratic nominee will be.
Okay, let's go to another question. Jordan is a student from Scotch Plains. He has the next question.
Hi, Senator. Thank you so much for being here. My question is, why do you believe that the government can provide better health care than the private sector, and why should people who like their plans be forced to switch?
Okay. First of all, let's be clear what we mean by Medicare for all, okay? Medicare is a government-run program for seniors, which is widely popular and quite effective. In 1965, when Lyndon Johnson passed that bill, it was called by some Republicans socialism and everything else. But you go to the average senior and you say, how do you feel about Medicare? And they will tell you that they will oppose any Republican effort to cut Medicare. And by the way, in Trump's budget, he has proposed an $845 billion cut over a 10-year period to Medicare, which seniors don't want. So to answer your question, we are not talking about government-run health care. The Veterans Administration, and most veterans think that that's a pretty good health care system. Talk to the American Legion and the VFW. They strongly defend the veterans' health care. That's government-run. What we are talking about is simply a single-payer insurance program, which means that you will have a card which says Medicare on it. You'll go to any doctor that you want. You'll go to any hospital that you want. And by the way, millions of people today are in networks which prevent them from doing this. So this gives you freedom of choice with regard to the doctors you go to or the hospitals you go to. But here is the main point when we talk about healthcare. Currently, right now, we got 30 million people, zero health insurance, and many of you and tens of millions of Americans are underinsured with high deductibles and co-payments. Is that correct? Yes. All right. So what happens is there are estimates that some 30,000 Americans die every single year because they don't go to the doctor when they should. All right. Meanwhile, we pay the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs. 1 out of 5 Americans are getting ripped off by the drug companies who make billions in profits while charging us the highest prices in the world. And on top of all of that, we spend twice as much per capita on health care as do the people of any other nation. So the question that I throw back to you, do you think it makes sense to spend twice as much per capita as the people of any other nation and be the only country in the world not to guarantee health care to all people?
This audience has a lot of Democrats in it. It has Republicans, independents, Democratic socialists, conservatives. I want to ask the audience a question. If you could raise your hand here. A show of hands of how many people get their insurance from work, private insurance, right now. How many get it from private insurance? Okay. Now, of those, how many are willing to transition to what the senator says, a government-run system?
It's not a government-run system.
There's
Why does it
180
keep
million
repeating?
people on private insurance.
All right, let's deal with that, Brett.
And
fair question.
They
Brett?
would be lost, right?
Well,
to your
Brett,
system.
Fair
Okay.
question.
Okay.
Fair question.
Good, thank
and
you.
I know it's what the right wing throws out, so let me answer it. All right? Millions of people every single year lose their health insurance. You know why? They get fired or they quit and they go to another employer. I was the mayor for 8 years. You know what I did, what probably every mayor in America does? Is you look around for the best insurance program, the most cost-effective insurance. You change insurance. Every year, millions of workers wake up in the morning and their employer has changed the insurance that they have. Maybe they like the doctors. People are nodding their heads. Okay? So this is not new. Every year. Now, what we're talking about actually is stability. That when you have a Medicare for all, it is there now and will be there.
Very strong. Very, very strong.
Senator, let me ask you a question about
Clear, too.
Vermont, because Vermont tried to have a single-payer program. And in 2014, the Democratic governor abandoned it because he had to raise income taxes, had to raise payroll taxes, and the people of Vermont didn't want their taxes to go up.
No, it's not quite true.
And they abandoned the program. So if you
you're
work in
getting
Vermont,
into internal Vermont politics, of which I know a little bit.
Well, I'm sure you
I
do.
don't want to be... All right, the governor did a rather poor job, but I think if you look at polling, especially among Democrats, as I'm sure you have, you tell me, strong majority of Democrats and more than a few Republicans want to see a Medicare for All program. What the opponents, and let's be clear about this, Martha. When you are dealing with health care, which is, what's it, 18% of our GDP? I mean, we're talking about $3.5 trillion a year. And you have insurance companies that make billions and billions of dollars in profit. Let me give you an example, if I might, of the dysfunctionality of the current healthcare system. Recently, Aetna merged with CVS. You may recall that. Big merger, which in my view will drive healthcare costs up. The gentleman who was head of Aetna, named Mr. Bertolini, you know what he got for putting together that merger? He got a $500 million bonus. Do you think that's how we should spend healthcare dollars?
I mean, I think everybody is in agreement that healthcare needs to be fixed in this country. The question is how. And my question to you was, it will drive up taxes to pay for healthcare, and not just the wealthy will pay for that. The middle class will also pay for it.
Net saving.
So how do you justify it? And
all right, Martha, what are you not including in your discussion?
Right.
You tell me.
I will tell you. You're not going to pay any health insurance premiums. But look, Martha, Martha,
whether it's in your income tax or your payroll tax, you're going to pay.
Look, healthcare is not free. You never heard me suggest that we're going to magically...
You just said it was going to be free for everyone.
It's going to be free at the point of when you use it, okay? And you go to... Why are you so shocked by this?
Because someone's going to pay.
Because she's a shill, Bernie.
Okay, one second.
Okay,
relax.
I'm just asking.
We'll be talking.
Please.
We'll get through this together.
It's a common question.
Okay.
We had,
okay. All right.
we had so many email questions.
Okay.
Ask Senator Sanders how he is
Fair
going
enough.
to pay.
I got it.
It's a fair
But the first thing...
Bernie will be accused of mansplaining, by the way.
You are self-employed, and you've got a husband and 2 kids, okay? Family of 4. Do you know how much that family is paying today for health care?
How much?
$28,000 a year.
Okay.
All right, we're spending $11,000 per person. We are saying to that family of 4, you ain't going to pay that $28,000. You're not paying any more premiums. You're not paying any more co-payments. You're not paying any more deductibles. How's that? $28,000 you're not paying. But does that mean you're not going to pay something? Of course it does. You're going to pay more in taxes.
And do members of Congress who now have gold-plated health insurance...
No, we don't.
Well, they have a special plan that's outside Obamacare. A different plan. Do members of Congress, are they going to do that transition as well?
Damn right. Of course.
Why not? Of course.
Why would you suggest otherwise? But I want to make the point. I want to get back to the point that Martha raised. Look, healthcare costs money. Every other country, or virtually every country, does it in the same way we do education for our kids. Okay, when a kid walks into school, kid doesn't have to take out a credit card, right? It's paid for out of public funds. That's what most countries do. So if you're asking me, if your question is a fair question, are people going to pay more in taxes? Yes. But at the end of the day, the overwhelming majority of people are going to end up paying less for health care because they're not paying premiums, co-payments, and deductibles.
We're going to get into many more specifics. Senator, thank you. Coming up, more of your questions for Senator Bernie Sanders, plus 2 of the issues that could end up really defining the race for the White House as we come back here to Bethlehem, Pennsylvania.
This is, okay, so we've got a little bit of a break here. This is stunning what we are seeing. I knew that they were going to set this up to try to create an environment that is favorable to their right-wing audience. It wasn't so much about attacking Bernie, but of creating that environment. They don't even understand their own talking points. I mean, Martha McCollum and Bret Baier, their heads are spinning, and I've not seen anything like this, and I've watched a lot of this nonsense in my day. Unbelievable. Truly, truly unbelievable. We will get back to this momentarily. There are a few super chats I will mention. I'll put them on screen just briefly here. A couple people who have been making comments, and I want to get to some of these, but we will sort of keep it here on the commercials that Fox is airing. Beepus asked, what's the next Bernie smear going to be? Yeah, well, it's going to be that he's rich. We're already seeing that. Janelli Na said, thoughts on Trump and many others smearing and putting a target on Ilhan Omar, basically putting her life in danger. Disgusting. Covered it on the broadcast show today. Harry Pothead says that the progressive new media host should do a Sunday roundtable show. I would be up for doing something like that. Junkyard Joe says stuff like Kenshi, Fallout, and other post-apocalyptic stuff has gotten popular in the last few years. Does it have anything to do with social anxiety and escapism? I think it does. And J-Dog McSwizzle sent a $2 super chat where he said $1,000, which is very, very exciting. We have a lot of people watching the Bernie Town Hall with us today. If you want to call in and talk to me, and I see a lot of people who are angry with me, I'm a smug know-it-all, and I'm queer, and all of this different stuff. You can say it to my face. I'll open up the phone lines after we're done at 617-830-4750. It would be my pleasure to take your call, and believe me, I will do it, and I do it every week. But we are targeting 10 new members at davidpakman.com/membership. It's really cheap. It supports the work that we do, and it supports these live streams. www.joinpakman.com. $6 a month, $60 for the year. Use the coupon code THISIS2020 to save 40%. If we get 10 new members, we will open up the phone lines right after the town hall is over, and it will be a great time for all. And by the way, if you are very angry with me because I'm seeing comments, I'm a snowflake and all of this different stuff, if you want to debate me like people are saying, sign up. Put your area code in either the first or last name field so that I know when you call in that it's you. And I'll pick up on you first. And then you can give me a piece of whatever it is you say that that you're going to give me. I see a lot of big time talkers in the chat, but call in and tell me then. Let's make it happen. So you can sign up at www.joinpakman.com. Not a lot of money. Supports the work that we do. Supports the live streams. We're talking about $2.08 a month if you use the coupon code SAVE35, which you can use on a $60 membership. $60 membership becomes $25 if you use the coupon code SAVE35. Let me know your area code when you sign up, and then I will pick up your call at the bottom of the hour when this is over. And by the way, let me see if I have, I'll play for you a sample voicemail from the types of folks that like to call in. Very, very angry folks who want to talk to me. Here's one example. Here's a Trumpist called Jimmy from Philly who calls in. Okay, this is a voicemail he left me very recently.
David, regarding the abortion video you just dropped, do you mind if I ask a follow-up question? Jesus Christ. How much soy could this caller have absorbed?
There you go. Yeah. So you want to talk about soy boys or whatever? Call in. I welcome your call. 6 months. I see people are calling in like crazy right now. The number would be 617-830-4750 when we open the phone lines, but we will do that after the town hall if 10 people sign up at joinpakman.com. Let's get back to the town hall here, which is a total gong show so far.
So I know there are opportunities around.
It's actually been pretty good job-wise. How's the economy and the job picture around here, this part of Pennsylvania?
Oh my God, Steve Ducey.
I think booming.
Or no, this
to be
is
honest.
Ducey. I actually did not do that on purpose. This is Peter Ducey, I think.
And we're doing really well.
None of the locals we spoke to were concerned that the economy is struggling here. The overall feeling about jobs was good, which is something that could complicate the eventual Democratic nominee's effort to flip Pennsylvania next year.
Totally
Brett,
fair
Martha?
stand-up.
Thank you, Peter. Welcome back, everybody, to the Arts Quest Center that you just saw in Peter's great story there, the Steel Stacks in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. We're back with our town hall with Senator Bernie Sanders.
Let's take some more questions from our audience.
All right, so we're going to go to Rodney. Rodney, are you up? Hi, Rodney.
Hi.
What's your question for Senator Sanders?
Thank you. My question for Senator Sanders here is, how would you bring back jobs in industry like Bethlehem Steel that have been lost due to, in part, trade deals that don't favor the American working class?
Hey, Rodney, that's a great question.
Red meat.
You are looking at a former congressman and a senator who voted, not only voted against NAFTA, walked the picket lines with union workers to see that, voted against CAFTA, voted against permanent normal trade relations with China, strongly opposed the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And why did I oppose all of these disastrous trade agreements? It was very clear to me that these agreements under Democratic and Republican leadership was written by multinational corporations to make these corporations even wealthier at the expense of the American worker. So let me suggest what is not a radical idea. American workers should not have to compete against desperate people around the world who are making $1 or $2 an hour. Now, I think we have a moral responsibility to lift up poor people around the world along with the rest of the wealthy countries. But you can do that without engaging in a race to the bottom. I have heard from, I've got a 100% lifetime pro-union voting work. I'm very close to unions. And I talk to union workers. And they say, our boss has said that if you don't take a pay cut, you don't take a cut in health care, we're going to move to Mexico, we're going to move to China, where people are prepared to work for almost nothing. So we need trade is a good thing, but we need a trade policy that works for working families and not just for the large corporations.
Simple.
All right, so you just saw in Peter Doocy's package there, people saying that they think the economy is doing pretty well here. So in Pennsylvania, you've got unemployment is down over the past couple of years. Wages are up 6.6%. So how do you convince those people in this area who I know you'd like to win over this time around that they should, sort of change horses and go with you when things are going well?
Okay, well, that's a fair question, and let's look what's going on not only in the United States, around the world. I know Donald Trump will tell you that he is responsible for the relatively low unemployment which we currently experience. Well, guess what? In 2010, at the heart of the Wall Street crash, unemployment in America was 10%. You remember that? Yep. By the time Obama left office, it was 4.5%. Okay? So it's gone down, and in the last 2.5 years under Trump, it has gone down again. Where are we at 3.5% now? That's good. Okay, but there's been a steady decline. Do you know what unemployment is in Germany now? 3.1%. In Japan, it's 2.8%. In the UK, it's a hair higher than us. In other words, the entire global economy, thank God, is bouncing back for the terrible, terrible Wall Street disaster that cost so many jobs and caused so much suffering in this country. Okay?
And you said that has nothing to do with the Trump.
Certainly not. What I'm suggesting to you is the facts are very clear, is that in Japan, in Germany, United Kingdom, all over the world, thank God, it's a good thing, the global economy is coming back and unemployment is relatively low. Now, I know Trump will give a slightly different spin on it, but in the midst of all of this, in the current economy today, while unemployment is low, and we're all delighted by that,
this requires skill.
What you have is that most of the new income in wealth continues to go to the very, very wealthy.
Right.
You have a situation now where 7 million more people lack health insurance that used to have it. And you still have a situation where in states all over this country, and it's hard for me to believe this, but it's true, you got people still working for $7.50, $8 an hour because Trump and Republicans refused to raise the minimum wage to a living wage. So to answer your question, the economy today is good, thank God. But you got tens of millions of workers still struggling to put food on the table. And we've got to address their needs as part of the debate.
Let me ask you, just quickly, if you raise taxes on corporations, which I know you weren't happy with the tax cuts for corporations, aren't you afraid that that is going to chill employment, that those companies are going to say, you know what, we have 100 employees, we could do it with 50.
No, because he understands how that works.
We're not going to pay these higher taxes. We're not going to, isn't that a concern?
If you want to defend, I think we look at the world a little bit differently, but if you want to defend a tax system in which Amazon, owned by the wealthiest person in this country, pays zero in federal taxes.
I don't think anybody thinks that's fair.
Okay, good.
But I'm saying if
so
you
she's saying raise taxes on
companies,
Amazon,
small
raise it from zero
across the country.
Well, are
you worried that they will employ fewer people?
Tax policy is complicated, and you got to do it right. You didn't hear me say we're going to raise taxes on small business, did you? What we are talking about is raising taxes on large profitable corporations and on the wealthiest people in this country. And I think that that is just.
Senator, you look at the list, you're for the Green New Deal. And different policies within it, but you're for it generally. We talked about Medicare for all.
Can we talk about?
Yeah, we will. Free college tuition.
Yep.
You have an infrastructure plan.
Yep.
We have a shot of the current national debt clock. It stands at more than $22 trillion tonight, and as we're talking here, it is ticking up. You've talked about ways to pay for your plans, but there is a lot of doubt that your plans might actually speed up that clock dramatically. So when you look at that, do you not care about that anymore?
I think you're asking the
worst
wrong
question
guy.
of the
Maybe it's
evening.
the president you might want to ask. But, Brett, in all due respect,
sure.
Trump gave $1.5 trillion tax break to the top 1% and large profitable corporations. And I find it so ironic that my Republican colleagues in the Senate talk all the time about the debt. They didn't have a word to say about that.
No,
okay.
we've done many stories about that.
Okay, that's not a criticism, But what I am saying is that
I'm asking you.
Yeah, we in fact, I am concerned about the debt. That's a legitimate concern. Every American should be concerned about it. That's not something we should be leaving to our kids and our grandchildren. But we pay for what we are proposing. In terms of Medicare for all, we are paying for that by eliminating, as I said before, deductibles and premiums. We're going to save the average family money. When we're paying twice as much as other countries, we're going to save money on health care. I talked about a tax on Wall Street speculation that will help us make colleges, public colleges and universities, tuition free. We have a tax plan to raise the $1 trillion we need over a 10-year period to rebuild our crumbling infrastructure. So I think you're talking to the wrong guy. We pay for what we are proposing, unlike the President of the United States.
Perfect.
We have another audience question. Amy is a therapist from South Whitehall Township. Amy, what's your question?
There she is.
Hi, I work as a therapist specifically with people struggling with opioid addiction. Pennsylvania is currently 4th in the nation for opioid overdose deaths, which amounts to 15 people a day in Pennsylvania. As president, what specific policies would you implement in order to address this crisis?
Thank you. And thank you for the work you're doing. And let me say, it's not just Pennsylvania. It's Vermont. It's New Hampshire. It is a terrible, terrible crisis. For the first thing that I would do is make certain that we never allow Trump to implement his plan, which would throw 32 million people off of the health insurance that they have.
Right.
Some of you remember, and think about what that would do to dealing with opioids. You may remember that during the campaign, you correct me if I'm wrong, you guys follow this stuff, President Donald Trump campaigned and he said, I'm a different type of Republican. You remember that? He said, I'm not going to cut Medicaid. I'm not going to cut Medicare. Well, the last budget that he brought forth called for $1.5 trillion cut in Medicaid over a 10-year period, $845 billion in Medicare. What would $1.5 trillion cut to Medicaid do for our ability to combat the opioid addiction? So what we need, in fact, is we need a series of ideas to deal with this very, very serious addiction. You know, we are facing a nation right now where our life expectancy is actually going down. And one of the reasons is drug addiction, it is alcoholism, it is suicide, which the doctors refer to as diseases of despair. When people are giving up on life, that's what happens. So what we need to do is to make sure that we have the treatment capabilities, which most states don't have. Actually, Vermont's doing fairly well in that. That means if you want to get off of that addiction, there is a place for you to go. It's difficult, it's tough stuff, but we have to deal with addiction in a serious way and invest in treatment for those who are addicted.
For all of these plans, you say there are enough taxes to raise to pay for all of the plans.
Yes.
There are bipartisan independent groups who have looked at those plans and say it just doesn't add up. What do you say to them?
We disagree. And sometimes these plans done by think tanks, check out who funds the think tanks.
Simple.
Look, Brett, Right, here is the issue that we have to deal with. Let me just bring it down to a human level. We're the wealthiest country in the history of the world. That's where we are right now. Do you think we should be having the highest rate of childhood poverty of almost any major nation on earth? We got some moms here who are spending $15,000, $20,000 a year trying to find quality child care for their kids. We probably have a child care system which is more dysfunctional than almost any other country on earth, where we all know that 0 through 4 are the most important years. You got hundreds of thousands of bright young people in America today, the wealthiest country in the world. They can't afford to go to college. And you got 40 million people struggling with student debt. You really think that we cannot do better as a nation? And on top of that, you got a handful of people who own more wealth than the bottom half of the American society. Now, I understand that we're taking on corporate America, we're taking on the Republicans, we're taking on the Democratic establishment, taking on the drug companies, taking on the insurance companies, taking on the military-industrial complex. You know what? Okay? It ain't easy. I know that. But I think what the American people know,
Crushing it.
the American people, I think, are ready to deal with justice in America. That's what we're fighting for. And that's economic justice, social justice, environmental justice, racial justice.
We want to get to some questions about.
Sorry, Mark,
I know.
get here.
Okay. We want to get to some
Justice,
questions
that's
about
enough. I have more
immigration.
loaded questions for you.
Immigration.
Yeah.
And let's talk a little bit about the border. The president, as you know, has said that the capacity for the asylum seekers that were full at the border in terms of housing and it's overflowing.
Yes.
It's a bad, untenable situation right now. He has suggested, and it's been very controversial over the past few days, sending some of those people to sanctuary cities, which have said in the past that they have opened doors for immigrants, So where do the overflow that we have no capacity for, where do you think they should go?
Well, first thought, I mean, this president, well, let me get into this for a minute. Look, I talked enough about it. But we have a problem at the border, a serious problem. And what is the problem? The problem right now, and you correct me if you think I'm wrong, is that we are now seeing desperate people fleeing violence and misery in Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala, with little children walking 1,000 miles. They're not trying to sneak in, correct me if I'm wrong, they're going up and they say, we want asylum, because I don't want my little girl to grow up, to be treated horribly by gangs, okay? Now, you're right, there are a whole lot of people. So what do we need to do? We need sensible immigration reform, which includes, among other things, getting hundreds of new judges, because the system is now overflowing, who can deal with these issues. You're coming into the country, are you really fleeing violence, or is another reason?
Right.
Okay, so you need to have many, many more judges to expedite the process.
And new asylum laws?
Pardon me?
New asylum laws?
Let's look. But historically, from an international and national perspective, and I speak as the son of an immigrant himself, not in this kind of position, but who came to this country at the age of 17 from Poland without a nickel in his pocket. Internationally, what the world has said is that if you are fleeing violence, if your life is in danger, that other countries should welcome you in. But we need real comprehensive immigration reform. We don't need, and let me say this very clearly, we don't need to demonize immigrants. That we don't need to do.
But let me ask
Breaking
you,
news,
answer
right?
my question, which is, right now, if you were the president of the United States, we have overflowing
Yes.
facilities. They need to go somewhere because they're in that asylum
What
process.
about building?
Where would you put them?
What about building proper facilities for them right now?
Where?
That can be done
Where? I'm
right on the
asking what
border.
location?
Right on the border at the same
So the people who live on the border should have more facilities in their states, but sanctuary cities which have said they're
Right, this-
open to accepting people should not take more.
Now, this is a political act
it's not.
on
It's
the
a real
president.
question.
Of course,
That's a real
No,
question.
it's not a real question.
Yes, it is.
It's a political decision. So what you want to do, let's talk about immigration,
Yeah.
which is a real issue. Okay,
Everybody would like
first
to
of
see
all,
real
instead of demonizing immigrants,
Nobody's
maybe,
demonizing.
well, I'm saying you are, but we have a president who certainly does every single day. What we need is comprehensive immigration reform. That's what the American people want.
That is
And if
what
we
the
had a
American people
president
want.
who believed in that, we could actually do it. What you also want to do,
Both parties need to agree on it. to
you
get
got
that done.
today 1 point, Trump ended the DACA program that Obama established. You know what that means? That means every day more and more young people who were raised in the United States from 2 or 3 years of age, they're in the military, they are teachers. They're working all over this country. They are now scared to death that somebody's going to pick them up and throw them out of the country. And that is what Trump did. We need to provide legal status to those people. And we need a humane... Look, Martha, I'm not saying this is an easy issue, but let's not politicize it. What we need, as I said, we need the proper legal processes at the border so that these issues can be adjudicated to determine whether or not people should be entitled to asylum.
And you didn't talk about a wall or security there, but you've talked about that before.
We need border security. Of course we do. Who argues with that? That goes without saying. Now, I happen to believe that there are more cost-effective ways to do that than simply building a...
All right, let's go back to the audience. Tony is a real estate agent from Copley, Pennsylvania, has our next question. Tony?
Senator Sanders, good luck in your campaign.
Thank you.
As a Syrian American, I want to be assured our country isn't going to partake in any foreign affairs that don't directly affect our national security. I believe we need to stay out of Syria, Venezuela, and other countries that have their own personal issues. Do you wholeheartedly agree with this sentiment, or are you going to become another cog in the war machine?
Well, Tony, thank you. That's an excellent question. And, you know, we don't, as a nation, we don't discuss foreign affairs quite as much as we should. Tony, you're looking at a guy who, once again, not only voted against the war in Iraq, I helped lead the opposition to the war in Iraq. And if you go back to YouTube, and what I said then is that wars have unintended consequences.
Right.
Whether it was the tragedy of Vietnam, where so many people in my generation are still suffering as a result of that, people sleeping out on the streets. And by the way, we have got to make sure that no veteran in this country sleeps out in the street.
Right.
But let me
just
say this. This is, in a sense, good news, and I know you guys know this, that in the last month, I led the effort along with Senator Mike Lee, who's a conservative from Utah. Mike and I led the effort in the Senate, and some really great people in a bipartisan way led it in the House. And what we said is we think that the United States should get out of the Saudi-led war in Yemen. And for the first time since the War Powers Act was passed 45 years ago, we succeeded in the House and the Senate. And let me say this in a very serious way. I've been critical of the president all night, but let me just say this. The president has said that he does not want to see this country involved in endless wars, and I agree with that. And Mr. President, tonight you have the opportunity to do something extraordinary. Sign that resolution. Saudi Arabia should not be determining the military or foreign policy of this country. Let's get out of Saudi Arabia. Let's develop a bipartisan approach so that we do not continue to be engaged in, wars like Afghanistan, which is, 18 years in that war. So. 19.
So from a foreign policy perspective, which country is the biggest threat to the U.S.?
I don't know that look, I don't like using the word threat because that says, oh, my God, we have to spend zillions more on the military. I'll give you an example. Clearly, we are concerned about China and we're concerned about Russia. But here's the irony here. You got people who say we need to spend even more than $700 billion a year, more than the next 10 nations combined on the military. You know why? Because that China is a real potential enemy. These are the same people who are investing billions of dollars building the Chinese economy. I find that somewhat ironic. All right? So I don't like to use the word enemy. Clearly, we need a strong defense. We need to bring the United States and the rest of the world together, do everything we can to rid this world of nuclear weapons. And I'll tell you what else, in my view, is a national security issue. And that is, we have got, as a nation, to reject Trump's idea that climate change is a hoax. And, I'm sure you're familiar with the scientific reports that tell us that we have all of 12 years to significantly cut carbon emissions, or else there will be irreparable damage to the United States and countries all over the world. So we have a moral responsibility, in my view, to transform our energy system and leave this planet healthy and habitable for our children and our grandchildren. And by the way, when we do that, we create millions of good paying jobs.
Let me ask you one, because you brought up the question of emissions, and just one quick question for you on emissions. So you think we should eliminate nuclear power, which I know they did in Vermont, but it ended up actually moving your emissions higher by 16% in Vermont because nuclear doesn't have any emissions.
Honestly, I don't think that that's correct. I think we are moving.
I can show you where
I can tell you that in
so
my
you
city,
against nuclear?
in my city, in Burlington, Vermont, which is the largest city in the state of Vermont, I believe that all of our energy is now renewable. That's something I started way back when I was mayor. And other cities are doing the same. But Martha, here is the point. Here is the point. Yeah, I happen to believe, I do believe we should phase out, not eliminate it tomorrow. Yeah. We should phase out nuclear power plants. But here is the main point. The main point is that if we do not combat climate change, I fear very much the kind of world that we're leaving to our kids in terms of more drought, more flooding, more extreme weather disturbances, more rising ocean levels. And when those things happen, by the way, they become a national security issue because people migrate. If I can't, if I'm living in the Mideast someplace and I can't grow food on my land, I'm going to pick up and leave, and that causes conflict. So,
you said, Senator, that you wanted a strong defense, but your plan does call for significant cuts in defense. Would that send a message to the rest of the world that we are weaker?
No. We are now spending, Brett, we're spending, more than the next 10 nations combined, including many of our allies. We're now spending over $700 billion a year on defense. So we need a strong defense. But I will also tell you this. We have a Pentagon, and there are some Republicans. Mike Enzig, I'm the ranking member of the Budget Committee. Mike is the chairman of it. And Mike, I think, and I are in agreement on this. He's a conservative Republican, that there's something wrong when the Pentagon is the only major agency of government that has not undertaken or completed a major audit. And there are very few people who doubt that there's a massive amount of waste and overruns. You remember John McCain. Late John McCain would talk about the incredible cost overruns with existing in the Pentagon. So we do need a strong defense, and I support a strong defense, but I don't support waste and profiteering within the military-industrial complex.
So we're going to do a quick lightning round, if you would. A lightning round. We'll try to do about 15-second answers.
Oh, I hate this. All right.
All right. So the first one is a very serious question. You said yesterday, I watched your rally in Pittsburgh, that no one should tell a woman what to do with her own body.
How controversial.
With regard to abortion, do you believe that a woman should be able to terminate a pregnancy up until the moment of birth?
Look, I think that happens very, very rarely, and I think this is being made into a political issue. Okay? So I think it's rare, it's being made into a political issue, but at the end of the day, I believe that the decision over abortion belongs to a woman and a physician, not the federal government, not the state government, and not the local government.
Perfect.
Senator, you are looking to become the first Jewish president. Yes. You're also a staunch supporter of Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, who even...
Hold it. No. I've talked to Ilhan about twice in my life, so...
But you've
tweeted
support for
But this is what I do support. I support a Muslim member of Congress not to be attacked every single day in outrageous racist remarks.
Sure. My question is that even some fellow Democrats had some problems, have accused her of using language kind of associated with anti-Semitism. Can you understand why some Jewish Americans would have a problem with some of that?
Yeah, I can understand. I think that is not quite right, and I think that Ilhan has got to do maybe a better job in speaking to the Jewish community. But if your question to me is, do I think she is anti-Semitic? No, I don't.
No, it's not her. I'm saying in the thread in
I can understand. But here is the point also.
Not going to trip them up.
I'm Jewish. My father's family was devastated by Hitler. So this is an issue of some sensitivity to me. So I will do everything in my power, and I hope that every member of Congress will fight not only anti-Semitism, but racism and anti-Muslim activity so that we create a non-discriminatory society. But it is not anti-Semitic to be critical of a right-wing government in Israel.
That's right.
Anti-Semitic, okay?
Do you believe do you believe that murderers and rapists or thieves or child molesters should have the right to vote from prison?
Good question. All right, this is in my state. I recently researched this. It turns out that in our Constitution in the state of Vermont, for hundreds of years, everybody has the right to vote, okay? So I think you make this division. If somebody does something terrible, they're a rapist, they're a murderer, we send them away. Sometimes we send them away from life. But I also think that integral to who we are as Americans, no matter what kind of terrible things you did, you're paying the price. Maybe you're in jail for the rest of your life, but you have the right to vote. All right, and I'll tell you why. One of the things that upsets me very much is we have cowardly Republican governors who are working overtime to suppress the vote, to make it harder for people of color, for poor people, for young people to vote. So once you start and say, you committed a crime, you can't vote. Or you did this, you can't vote. You did that, you can't vote. I don't like that. Every American 18 of age of older who's a citizen in this country has the right to vote.
No matter their tribe. What if they say the same thing about you, that you just want felons to vote because it will be better for you?
Oh, come on.
I mean, they could say the same thing, right?
Ridiculous.
And you have done a scientific study to
No, I'm
determine
just
that.
saying that everybody wants to, encourage voters and discourage voters depending on where
one
they
of the
sit, I
great
guess.
problems, one of the political problems
dumb question.
that we're facing right now is the effort to deny people the right to vote. And look, I've run for office many times in Vermont. Sometimes I've lost, sometimes I've won. But I don't stay up nights trying to figure out how I can keep people from voting because they might vote against.
All right, two more quick things, very quickly. We've been told that the redacted Mueller report, the redacted version of the Mueller report, is coming out Thursday.
Right.
You don't talk a lot about the special counsel investigation on the campaign trail. Right. Why?
Not a campaign issue.
Well, because everybody else is talking about it. Look, it is what it is. It's coming out, I think, to the extent that as much of it as can be made public legally should be made public. I think the American people have a right to know what's in the report, period.
Finally.
All right, I want to ask one question about somebody who may run against you. Do you think that Joe Biden is a progressive?
Look,
Disgusting.
Joe is somebody who I have known for many, many years. Joe is a friend of mine. And by the way, I hope very much
don't
that
take
in
the
the
bait.
Democratic primary, we got a lot of good people, many of them personal friends of mine, that we have a debate about the issues and not about personality. So Joe is a friend of mine. That's all I'm saying.
Do you think he's a progressive, though? He says he's a progressive.
Give it up,
See, you're
Martha.
trying to do that. No, I'm not going to fall for that.
question.
Joe is a friend. He will give his point of view.
Okay.
I give mine. Let the people decide.
So
who they
of the 20 potential Democratic candidates, do you have one that you think will be the toughest challenger to you?
I have no idea. Today there was a poll that had us in the lead. Tomorrow we'll be in 18th place. Who knows what goes on? We'll just do the best that we can. All I can tell you, what I am proud of, is in our campaign, media paid attention to the money we raised good. More important to me, we have over 1 million people who have signed up to volunteer in the campaign.
All right, Senator. We're going to give you the floor here for a closing statement.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yes. We want to give you a chance to give a closing statement.
We're going to give him a floor for a closing statement here.
All right, well, thank you very much. And I hope I wasn't too hard on you.
That's all right.
Not hard enough.
All right. All right, look, thank you all very much for being here. And thank everybody for watching. Just a couple of points. I think sometimes the divisions in this country get a little bit too hot. Okay, at the end of the day, we are all Americans who love this country. And I also think, and the media plays not a good role in this, and again, not just Fox, is we have a lot more in common than most people think we do. All right, poll after poll. Should we raise the minimum wage to a living wage? Yes. Should we rebuild our crumbling infrastructure? Yes. Should we make sure that our veterans get the health care that they have earned? Yes. All right. Should we make sure that we do not cut Social Security or Medicare or Medicaid? Should we give huge tax breaks to billionaires? You know, that's how most people feel. So I hope, look, I'm looking forward to a good campaign. And the last point that I want to make, and I thank Fox, for the opportunity of being here, and that is, I want to see our country have the highest voter turnout in the industrialized world, not one of the lowest.
Right.
So no matter what your views are, get involved in the political process, stand up and fight to make this a better country. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Senator Sanders. Thank you very much.
Absolutely
Thank
fantastic.
you to our audience here in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Had some great questions. I'll be back tomorrow at 6 p.m. for a special report from Washington.
Listen, I watch this crap all the time, and this was one of the best town hall performances that I can remember by a Republican or a Democrat. I have copious notes, and we are going to be going over it in detail today and tomorrow on the program. If you've just been watching the stream, please hit the subscribe button. Subscribe to our channel. We are not that far from 1 million subscribers, and I would appreciate you hitting that subscribe button. To everybody who has been saying you want to call in and tell me how stupid I am and how bad Bernie is, well, you might get the opportunity very shortly. If you want to have me open the phone lines, sign up at www.joinpacman.com. I will open the phone lines at 617-830-4750. And then we'll hear from a lot of you fine people, including people who want to, quote, destroy me. I'm ready. Maggie Gallagher has signed up this evening. Matthew Gillett or Guillet has signed up. Joanne Ramsey has signed up, meaning that we have 3 new members already. Also, a few YouTube memberships which we will count towards that, including Stephen Ford. No, that was actually a different day. Who has signed up today, including, let me get the names correct here. V is new member number 4 of the evening, and Carson K is new member number 5 of the evening, and Dash Requiem Dash is new member number 6. So if 6 more people sign up, I will open up the phone lines at 617-830-4750. An extraordinary, a truly extraordinary performance. Brian Stevens becoming new member number 7. By the way, remember, YouTube takes 30%. Our website only takes 2.9% to process your payments, okay? So we get a lot more of the money if you sign up at www.joinpacman.com. I will open up the phone lines if folks sign up. Ty McDonald is new member number 8. Let me go through some of these super chats because they were coming in fast and furious. And then we will get to the phone lines if indeed it becomes time to do it. Let's see here. In before Bernie's criticized for being a shill for medical research grants. Okay, yeah, that's not happening. Kayla Empson says, do you find that Bernie struggles to communicate? I find that AOC communicates a lot of these same topics more effectively. Kayla, no, I don't think so. I don't think so at all. Jeremy Sutton with a 1999 British pound super chat. Why don't you ask countries who do this successfully, like Canada, UK, France, and Germany? Oh, yeah, Trump has burned those bridges. Absolutely. Political Psycho, thank you so much for live streaming the town hall. Keep up the good work, David. Thank you. Enter name. Romantic Mary Reject. Becky G, Leslie G, or Nati Natasha. You know, Nati Natasha is a vegetarian, and I'm not, so that would be difficult for marriage. So I think I might reject her, marry Becky G, and have a romantic evening with Leslie G. I don't actually know who Leslie G is. Howard Rourke with a 99-cent super chat. FAV1 says it's dangerous to go alone. Here, take this €5. Appreciate that. Steve B. So when Bernie brings the jobs back from overseas, what will he do when automation eliminates them? Yang 2020. I've been critical of elected officials or wannabe elected officials who don't simply say some of these jobs aren't coming back. I understand why, because if they do it, their opponent says, look, what a defeatist. They're saying the jobs aren't coming back, but it's the reality. And I do appreciate that Andrew Yang is being upfront about that. Jeremy Sutton, what WTF is a socialist college traitor? Are you in China? I didn't think you hung political dissidents in the free USA. What happened to unalienable rights guaranteed by your Constitution? Yeah, I don't know what you're talking about. Chrissy Wins says, keep up the great work, David and the team. Love the show. Thank you. Noonie sends a 99-cent super chat. Jeremy Sutton. Stop describing the crisis and get to a solution. You should have prepared for this. Reference Portugal. Oh, this is during the health insurance or opioid thing. Okay. Real Life Jolie says, I'm not sure whether or not I'm audible with my talkie box on the phone. So could you say whether you heard me on my voicemail a few months ago? We get 100 voicemails a day, so I unfortunately don't remember that. Big Talk, Little Talk says Bernie Tulsi 2020. Wow, let's hope not. Irene Humphreys says, go Bernie. Joseph Lawrence, thank you for sharing the feed. News Now Omaha Cop Block with $1 super chat. Incredibo TV. Unless Fox has a doctored tape of Bernie saying the N-word, he absolutely crushed it. Can you start a segment on the show called The Weekly Cringe, where you cover cringe in politics? Love the show. Something to think about. I lost Jeremy Sutton's latest one. There it is. What about what you're about to be paying on interest to service your budget deficit? Keep the Republicans in office and it will soon surpass defense spending. Okay. Brandon the Fish is a new member. Vortivort is a new member. Stun Ever says Bernie owned that like a boss. Brass balls to go on Fox News. Thanks so much for having this on. He's amazing. And so are you. I'm a member. One of the best town hall performances I've seen, truly. Griffin Sweat is a new member. Alex Malone says, sorry, I call every week, but please Google Yang News Ombudsman. Mr. FT Media with a British pound super chat. Lucas Warner, big fan of your show. I've been listening for a few years. This is my first super chat. Expect more in the future and sign up now. Thank you. Carly Mayfield says, you're awesome. And I've got a bunch of new members to thank. The phone lines might get opened. Listen, we mostly are funded not by huge corporations, but just by normal folks who say, I like what David's doing. I'm going to sign up on his website, joinpacman.com. Coupon codes are available, and some really awesome people signed up tonight. Jenny Ward is a new member. Damian Scott is a new member. Amy Borey is a new member. Peter Conover has signed up. Dylan Artunian is a new member. Calico Castile has signed up. Rodrigo Areola is a new member. Kenny Hughes, I hope I didn't say that wrong. Kenny Hughes is a new member. Roy Fischel is a new member. And Denise Bayham has signed up on Patreon at patreon.com/David Pakman Show. Already welcomed Maggie Gallagher and everybody before. So listen, I'm a man of my word, and it's time to open up the phone lines. 617-830-4750 is the number. Feel free to call in. I am going to get my note-taking supplies. We make very, very detailed notes about everybody who calls in, so we know, should they be blocked? Should I give them priority when they call in? Are they good callers? Are they bad callers? But I will be opening the phone lines right now at 617-830-4750. This program is supported by great people who sign up or who send super chats. A new sign up from Shamari Vasquez. Thank you so much, Shamari. Really, really appreciate your support. You can start calling in at 617-830-4750, and I will go to the phone lines momentarily. Aaron Holloway is also a new contributor, $5 a month on Patreon. Thank you so much for signing up. And a couple of other super chats here. What are your thoughts on Yang and white nationalists? It scares me. Already asked him about it personally last week on the show. Check it out on our YouTube archive. The political one, will you debate Kyle on the Mueller report? Over 9,000. I put out a video today which points out that I think basically almost my entire audience is actually in agreement with other leftists about the Mueller Russia stuff. I think that we need to de-inflame rather than inflame there. Mariah Stiles Brown has signed up, and memberships are rolling in. Listen, just to kick it off, let's go to Jimmy from Philly. I didn't go to him last time. We're going to go to him in a second. Actually, Jimmy, I'm sorry. I need you to just hold on one moment here. Don't hang up, Jimmy. I'm going to get everything connected and set up here, and then I will talk to Jimmy from Philly. Meanwhile, Lucas Warner is a new member. Caroline Cooper-Smith has signed up. Really appreciate the support. This is a program that depends on the support of the great people that are signing up, and it lets us do live streams and take phone calls and all sorts of stuff. So let's go to the phones. Jimmy from Philly, what do you got for me today, buddy?
Congratulations, David. You shadow banned me on YouTube. How's it feel?
I have no idea what you're talking about. Explain to me what you're talking about.
I'm shadow banned. I can't type in the chat. I can't super chat. No one responds to me anymore on YouTube. Yeah, you did that.
Jimmy, listen. I want to be really, really honest with you here, which is always what I do. I don't have the time to go ban people on YouTube. We get 2,000 comments a day.
Did.
I don't know what you said. I don't know what transpired during the live stream, but Jimmy, I don't know what you're talking about, and I didn't even think that shadow bans were a thing on YouTube. I thought you were either just blocked or not blocked. You know more than I do, Jimmy.
Yeah, I can type a message, but no one else can see it.
Okay.
Because they're not responding to me at all.
Well, you got on the phone. Do you have anything? You usually call in and talk about your YouTube comments. Do you actually have a political comment today?
Well, my thing with Bernie Sanders is
yes,
he supported his cheater. How can anyone respect this man? The fact that he even shows his face is amazing.
Sorry, he did what now?
He supported his cheater. Not a peep out of him about how Hillary screwed him. Now he thinks the DNC is going to be fair to him now. These political people that screwed him once, he don't think they're going to screw him again?
So you don't think the DNC is going to manage the primary fairly. Is that right, Jimmy?
Absolutely. They didn't before. What leads me to believe they will now.
Jimmy, it's
Here's how it's going to go, David.
It's 7:46 p.m. on April 15th, 2019. And for the first time in our storied history of you calling into the show, you've made a salient and pithy political point. I want to congratulate
let me
you,
make
Jimmy.
another one, David. Here's how 2020 is going to go. The progressives are going to win Donald Trump the election because they're going to split the Democrats. Then what's going to happen is the progressives are going to start their own party. Mark my words.
All right. Well, Jimmy from Philly, angry landscaper Jimmy from Philly, making a political prediction. Jimmy, how many beers have you had tonight?
None.
None. Yeah, you sound lucid in a weird way, so I appreciate that.
I'm always lucid, David.
All right, Jimmy, we'll talk to you later. Okay, let's see. So here's why the system is so good. I have Danielle marked as a very good caller and to go to Danielle. So Danielle, you're next up today. What's going on?
Oh my gosh, hello. I'm so honored that you consider me to be a very good caller. Maybe it's because I complimented you last time.
It may have been. It may have been.
Yeah, well, I suppose I just always call in because I love to hear your voice and I love hearing you talk.
Thank you.
So I just can't help but to call in. And I suppose my only criticism is that Jimmy talks too much. You give him too much airtime. I understand the need for such a character, but I think that perhaps, I don't know, maybe not every live show.
Yeah, and that's why, so Danielle, I don't know if you missed the last couple of live shows, but we have not gone to Jimmy from Philly because it was getting to be too much, and I went to the chat. The live chat said, do not go to Jimmy from Philly. So I didn't, and he's left me 5 voicemails since last week, and we've played none of them. So we're dialing down Jimmy from Philly a little bit.
Oh, that's so great to hear. And then I suppose I have one last question, and that is, will you ever do a meet and greet, or do you or Cal Kalinske are interested in doing a meet and greet? Because I would love to hug you guys in real life. Yeah,
so right now we are in discussions to organize an in-person David Pakman Show event in Boston. Although, since we've not done it before, it's most likely going to be limited to 50 people. So it'll be relatively small, just to sort of like a proof of concept. But we may do more in the future if it goes well.
Oh, that makes sense. But I'd be afraid to go to Boston because I'm black. But nonetheless, I hope I'll be able to see you one day.
You would be fine. You would be fine. We would ensure your safety, Danielle. But I appreciate the sentiment. Great to hear from you.
You too. Have a great day.
Okay, take care. Okay, let's go to let me just mention a couple of super chats here because there are more super chats coming in. Vinny3C sends $1. Cult of Malgus says, can you post the number in the chat? Can someone type it in? It's 617-830-4750. Ismael Aguilar says, love the show. Gracias, David. Thank you. And Greg Kenamone says, keep up the good work, became a member last month. What do you think about Trump busing migrants across the country? I say bring them in. I don't know what you mean by bring them in. arrest them or bussing them out of the country, do you mean? I need a little more info on that. Let's go to our next caller from the 570 area code. Who's calling today from 570?
Hey, it's Nick from Pennsylvania. Can you hear me?
Yeah, what's going on, Nick?
No, I just had a question. Well, first I'll tell you the question, then I'll explain a little bit why. I was just wondering what your thoughts were on banning animal agriculture or phasing it out over, so many years. Reason being was, I hear a lot of talk about people talking about the U.S. and the lifespan, not getting better. So they talk about a lot about drugs and everything, but the leading cause of death is heart disease. And the only diet proven to reverse heart disease is by Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn at the Cleveland Clinic. And so if you have the, plant-based nutrition, is proven to reverse the leading cause of death, and then you have the emissions from the animal agriculture, from all the waste and, and then you have like poor living conditions for the animals. And, so if you have the health aspect of it, there's no diet there's no scientific, proven disease that you absolutely need and require animal protein or animal products in general. So I was just curious to your thoughts if you've done kind of that research.
I have. There's a lot of stuff in there that I just don't think matches up with the science. I'd encourage you to go to scholar.google.com and look up some of this stuff. So number one, there are so if you so carnitine, for example, is an amino acid that you can only get from animal products. There's the B12 question. Of course, you can take a supplement if you're not consuming any animal products. But as far as the health benefits, I believe in reducing consumption for both environmental and health reasons of meats with high saturated fat. As far as cholesterol goes, the overwhelming science right now indicates that eating cholesterol does not raise cholesterol in blood. Saturated fat certainly seems to be a contributing factor, but there's more and more peer-reviewed scientific evidence. Hold on, I didn't interrupt you. Let me speak uninterrupted, if you may. Sure. It does appear that cholesterol production by the body may even be related to carbohydrate consumption, particularly carbohydrates that have a high glycemic load, white carbs, empty carbs as they are called. So I think that we're probably not on the same page in terms of the science, so we'd need to kind of agree on that before we can really talk about conclusions.
Okay. Well, I'd just like to mention quick that the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, one of the largest authorities on nutrition, says that well-planned vegan diets are suitable for all stages of life.
Yeah, that may be, but what you have to understand is when I talk about looking at peer-reviewed studies, you've got to do double-blind studies that are not observational based on the past. You need the one way that we can actually study this stuff in science. The recommendations that different groups have given at different times have very often been proven to be the wrong recommendations. So there's one way that we can study this stuff, and it is with when it comes to blinding the tests, they need to be blinded, and we have comparison groups, control groups. That's the way that we study this stuff, not just saying X group recommends Y or Z. That's not really peer-reviewed science.
Right, I understand. Well, there was a peer review. Like I said, Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn's research was peer-reviewed and clinically proven to reverse heart disease. So, when you're talking about dietary cholesterol not impacting, blood cholesterol levels, the reason that is when they manipulate the study design because they take people with already naturally high cholesterol who are eating the standard American diet. They might have cholesterol what they consider good, which is under maybe like 185 or under that 200 mark.
No, what you're suggesting is a conspiracy to make every cholesterol-related study effectively a sham study, and there's absolutely no evidence that that's the case. And I would be glad to provide counter evidence at another point because I think we've probably spent enough time on it. But I do appreciate the phone call. Thank you very, very much. Okay, let's go to our next caller from the 978 area code. Who's calling in today from the 978 area code?
Hi, David. My name is Tiffany Stoss.
Hey, Tiffany. What's going on?
I just wanted to mention a few things. I was actually on did a segment on the Vatican a while back, and I was part of that on your show. So that was a great video.
Thank you.
Also, I know that people are giving you flack for I don't know, stupid reasons on your chat. So I just wanted to kind of boost you up instead of knock you down.
Oh, thank you.
You are intelligent, and even though I am a lesbian, you are an attractive guy, and you should not deal with any of that crap, which I don't think you do anyways.
Wow.
Additionally, I want to thank you for supporting trans people. I know people like Jimmy, who's a complete ignorant moron. I'm pretty sure I can say that on your show.
Oh, sure.
Doesn't know anything about trans people, and he's not subtle about it. So I just wanted to thank you for sticking up for trans people because, I'm trans. So.
All right. Well, I will stick up for everybody that deserves to have someone sticking up for them. Tiffany, really appreciate your phone call.
My pleasure.
All right. Take care. A couple super chats to look at. Zach Forbes Restifo says, Zach from Pittsburgh here. David, which candidate do you think would best support LGBT plus / minority rights? I think most of the candidates have a very, very long track record of LGBT plus minority right support. I guess on LGBT, Tulsi Gabbard more recently changed her opinion. But for the most part, I think all of the candidates on the Democratic side on those issues are quite strong. Enter Name says you should start a political Twitch like Destiny and Hassan Piker debate tons of moron conservatives. Yeah, two people I'm in touch with, Destiny and Hassan. Maybe. I just feel like I've built so much support here on YouTube, 620-something thousand subscribers, that why start from scratch on Twitch and have to build an audience when we've got a great audience here? I'm worried about sort of spreading myself a little too thin. Stun Ever says beans and avocado have L-carnitine. Just saying. Oh, if that's true, I didn't know that. I spoke to a doctor over the weekend actually about this. G Burns, I'm so glad you streamed this 2v1 debate, not really a town hall. I much preferred your analysis to the corporate drivel I would have endured watching Fox News. Thank you for your great content. Thank you for the support. Ranger Jenny, cowspiracy.org. I'm a Bernie fan, but love Yang and Williamson too. What are your thoughts on her? Total woo-woo, pseudoscience nonsense. Not interested, not even worthy of discussion, in my view. So shocked by the truth bombs she dropped on CNN. Yeah, she says some things that make sense that lots of people say, but not for me. Jeremy Sutton. My comment about China referred to hateful, violent chats. One mentioned hanging socialist college traders. Nothing to do with your commentary. All right. Lucas Warner. Thank you, David. Viewer since 2016 signed up today. Appreciate it. And FT asks, do we have time to reverse abrupt climate change? Every day, it is more of a question, what of climate change can actually be reversed? And sadly, it's unclear whether all of it can, which is why it is so important that we get moving on that issue much more quickly than we are under this administration. Let's go to our caller from the 469 area code. Who's calling today from 469?
Hello?
Yeah, that's you. Who's this?
I'm Deshaun. I live in Dallas. I was calling because I wanted to know what your thoughts were on Andrew Yang, specifically around social issues, where it seems to be like he doesn't, at least from my perspective, that he doesn't really have any strong, how should I put this? He doesn't really speak about it when he's debating. And if he does talk about it, he just only speaks about it from like the UBI as a solution kind of perspective. So I wanted to know what you thought about that, specifically on LGBTQ rights, where on his website he has kind of like one sentence that's kind of vague, in my opinion, as someone who is LGBTQ, when there are so many other candidates that are, I just kind of expect more from him, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But I wanted to know.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting what you're bringing up. I've said for a while that I think foreign policy is Bernie Sanders' weakest area. And in fact, in my notes to discuss tomorrow on the show, I made a note that the weakest point was when he was asked about who he sees as the biggest geopolitical threat. Along the same lines, I think social issues are Andrew Yang's weakest. So I basically agree with you. I have no reason to think that he has the wrong views on social issues. I just think he's not addressing them nearly enough, and I completely agree.
I thought that too, but then here's something that's really more problematic for me, is that like I notice he isn't really engaged in the conversation on Twitter about it at all. Like I literally went on Twitter and just searched Andrew Yang LGBTQ or, just to kind of see like, oh, is there a history of him supporting it?
Yeah.
And it didn't really exist. And that was kind of like really bizarre to me, at least. And then not only that, but also about like racial issues. It's kind of like there really wasn't a history of him, like I said, unless it's through the perspective of, my UBI plan as a solution to everything. It's kind of like it didn't really feel like there was really a history there. And so I used to support him, to be honest, but I've kind of pulled that back. I'm still like Bernie is my number one, but I was kind of thinking he could have been number two, but then it just started to feel kind of weird there for me. And then, but yeah, that's kind of a whole thing. But also on the issue of kind of towards the town hall, I guess. Do you think all the mainstream media outlets continue to assume that Biden's going to run for president? That's just kind of the running assumption, right? Is that Biden's going to jump in?
They seem to, although I don't know. I mean, I'm just taking a wait and see approach. I don't know why a lot of corporate media seems so convinced.
Right. But it's weird. It's almost like they're pushing it. But anyway, I think. Do you think he will jump in, or do you think, because it's kind of getting late now? Really, I mean, you've had Pete Buttigieg.
Yep.
What is it? Yesterday, do his event, and then it's kind of like the money's beginning to dry up. There's a lot of establishment candidates that are sucking up all the money. So, do you really think that he's going to jump in?
I have no idea. This is why I'm just saying I don't know. I mean, in the latest, so tomorrow on the show, an Emerson poll that was released yesterday has Bernie ahead of Biden now, which has not been the case in any national poll that I'm aware of up until this point in time. So it's possible that the reason it's taking a while is that the numbers keep getting worse and worse for Biden. I really have no idea. I have no idea whatsoever. But I think if he's going to, he's got to do it within the next month.
Right. Yeah, I definitely agree. Like, it's just bizarre because I'm talking MSNBC to like Fox even tonight. We're just kind of like, Biden's going to jump in. And it's just like, I don't know. But yeah, I'm glad I got to talk to you. But,
all right. Thank you for the phone call. Well, great to hear from you. Appreciate it. Couple other super chats to mention. Vinny3C is back in with another $1 super chat. Harry Pothead says, F Twitch, I'll become a member Friday. All right. And B Person says, hey, David, I'm 18 and you have been an amazing role model. Really appreciate that. It's been a nearly 2-hour stream and I've got to run, but I appreciate everybody who joined me. And I will do another stream later this week.